Hannah Perez. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Doing great.
Yeah, you're doing good?
Yeah.
It's a fine Wednesday.
Fine Wednesday. We're, short sleeves, summer in LA.
Yeah. It's fully the end of February. You built a clear protein brand from zero to well over seven figures. Most people will tap out long before that. What did it take to actually scale so drastically?
Yeah, I always relate this to, making a smoothie. Like, what are the things that you need in the smoothie to thrive? And for me, I think in anyone building anything, you need to have passion, you need to have discipline, and just the willing to do whatever it takes type of mentality. So I think ultimately between that and then having a partner also that can keep me accountable to building that thing, keep us both accountable to building that thing. But to me, you can't do anything without passion and discipline.
You have a business partner as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How did you
Yeah.
guys meet?
We met in college. We worked at the same marketing agency for like a few months. He was an intern. I was pursuing going full time so I could learn all things marketing to apply to building a business at some point. And he came back like a year later. At this point, I was full time in the agency, and he wanted to get feedback on this clear protein that he had discovered from another friend. And I previously very big into the fitness world, just supplements overall. I used to work at a supplement store. I was like, this is so much better than anything I've ever tried. Why isn't this the normal? Why isn't everyone drinking this? And that was also the time in my life where I was like doing anything I could to get my feet wet in entrepreneurship and building the most random businesses. And this is the first one that felt very aligned, that I was already very deep and passionate about fitness and health.
What were your businesses before the clear protein brand?
Oh man, where do we even begin? The first things that inspired like entrepreneurship for me was back in high school. I would flip shoes, fake Yeezys or like random hype beast shoes, and just flip them on like eBay and other distribution sites. And then anything I could find to flip on Facebook Marketplace. Like, I'm always the person stopping on the side of the street and finding like a random nightstand or a dresser and putting it in my trunk and then putting pictures online the next day to sell it. But then in college, when things got more materialized that I actually wanted to pursue business, I started this healthy food truck company.
Oh, that's cool.
It was like the beginning phases of it. Me and my good friend, she was my roommate at the time, and we wanted to build a healthy fast food business. From that, we started these veggie burgers, and I can't even tell you the amount of veggie burgers that we made. It was ridiculous. And all to pursue this challenge that my school provided called the Big Ideas Challenge. It was basically like a Shark Tank, but for college students to enter with their business idea and work with business people around the community to help build a thing. And you'd get real money to actually pursue that thing. So we could have won like $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
my God.
insane. But what it did teach me, that specific moment, was knowing how many like doors close and when you actually also should close that same door. Because I think ultimately you go through life and pursuing something and you hit obstacles and you can get past most of them. But I do think there's a certain point where you hit enough obstacles and you might have to question if the idea is good enough. And that's where we were at that point, where we finished the whole project and the presentation. We got on stage and did the whole pitch. But at that point, we knew it was no longer worthwhile for our energy to move forward with that idea. So that was one random idea that we got way deep in the weeds on. I started this random sock subscription company with another good friend in college because I'm like,
You've touched every
nothing feels better than putting on a new fresh pair of socks.
Real.
I love that feeling. And then I started drop shipping a diaper bag for moms. It was called the Mom Brand. And I actually ended up ordering inventory, so it wasn't the traditional drop shipping model. But I think every entrepreneur, if you're like in your 20s, have done some type of drop shipping in your life. So those are just a
Especially
few.
growing up in this time period in
Completely.
the 2010s, that was the huge business model.
Completely. Yeah. Now everyone's doing it for themselves, buying stuff on like Temu and AliExpress, but that is the drop shipping model. So those are just a few that I had gotten started with. But it was like, if you had a random idea to start like a tape business, like I'm like, great, let's do that. Like, let's figure out how we are starting this tape business.
Do you remember in middle school when people were selling duct tape wallets?
Yes, that was me. That was literally me. Not selling them, just making them.
Yeah.
And now I taught my nieces and nephews how to make them. But I'm like, yes, exactly. Like you can make something out of anything and make a business out of it, whether it's your lemonade stand growing up. And like, I think once you prove to yourself that you can make a business out of anything and you see other people doing that, to me, the question always is like, why can't that be me too?
Because if they can do it, then why can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You made such a good point earlier about pursuing a venture and pivoting when you know it's not necessarily right for you. It could be a good idea, but if you keep running into obstacles, it's probably not the right path for you because it really should flow.
Yeah.
Did you find that was the case with Seek?
I would say absolutely. Like in the beginning, people would ask me the question, like, what has been your biggest challenge? And it was challenging for me to think of what our biggest challenge was because a lot of it did come very naturally. And I also am a delusional optimist and that like I see the good in every part of the journey.
Yeah.
Now I'm finding it more challenging as we continue to grow and scale. And I'm realizing there's other challenges that are less to do with the business, but more in just the how to articulate the vision to new people in the business so that way they can continue to build the business in the way that we have shaped it. But when we were first getting started, it flowed so easily and
Yeah.
we were able to find the answers. And I think that going back to like the healthy fast food thing, like finding something that could make it stay good for more than 3 days, like it wasn't shelf stable, like things like that, where it's just, I love the idea of where this could go, but I don't have the know-how, nor do I want to know how to do some of these
Makes so much
things,
sense. Yeah.
which I think goes also into what I deeply believe in is finding your zone of genius, which is what is the thing that lights your fire that only you can do and you can do it really, really well. And whatever else you're doing, let's figure out ways to delegate that and get that off your plate. Because if you're in your zone of genius, then absolutely things flow so much easier versus if I was still doing the web development and building the projections for what the next year is going to look like, I'm going to hit so many obstacles with that. So it's like absolutely finding like what is aligned for you because you are in alignment, things do just flow so much more naturally.
I've heard a lot of CEOs give this advice. Delegation is so important when you're the head of a company. You have to know what you're not good at and you have to give those tasks to other people.
Totally. Yeah, find your A players is what we say. It's like who's going to be the A player at operations, who's going to be the A player in finance and marketing and, building our partnerships program and all the other things in between because yeah, we can do a lot. Like as people who are passionate and disciplined, like I know that I can wear 15 different hats. But hat 13 might not be the best hat for me to wear. That's the question that I consistently come back to every few months because when we are able to hire somebody, that's the deeper question that me, my business partner, and our CEO are now having bigger conversations around. It's like, what do you really want to master and be great at? And what do we need to, what spot on the team do we need to fill that we don't have an A player in? So completely aligned with that.
Yeah. Have you always been a high achiever?
I think yes, based on just how I was raised. It was always do good in school, be in extracurriculars, do good in soccer. That was my sport growing up. There wasn't really another option. And for me anyway, I had this message that I've now been able to understand after going through years of just like therapy and like healing work that I received love more when I achieved more. That I think many high achievers can relate to. And maybe they don't even know it yet. They're not conscious to it. But now that I'm conscious to it to me, I don't care less about the accolades and the milestones and all of those things. And I do just about the feeling of the journey versus maybe before it was to get those accolades to receive something external. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That actually leads me perfectly into my next question. But would you describe yourself as more intrinsically or extrinsically motivated?
I think for different purposes, probably both. But I would say, like at the beginning of growing this business, it was definitely like extrinsically when it comes to creating freedom through wealth and not having to worry about money. That is the reason I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But now, ultimately, it's shifted into something much deeper than that, where it probably still is extrinsically because it's tied more to how we are impacting the people that are interacting with our brand, how we're impacting the shift from this gym bro mentality to a very like approachable wellness that I think more people can benefit from.
Yeah.
So it has less to do with the finances, but it's still, I'd say, extrinsically in that same motive of wanting to do more for others. And then future seek and where I'm going to be in the future, I see myself as a coach to guide people with whatever they want to build for themselves or whatever blocks are in their way that they need to remove to live their most aligned self and life. So I'd say probably, now that I'm reflecting out loud, extrinsically makes more sense for me.
There's also nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people will attach shame to extrinsic motivation. I don't know if you align with that, but there's nothing wrong with seeking freedom through wealth, because money really does equal freedom, in my opinion. And there's nothing worse than being financially stressed.
Yeah, I've seen it cause so much stress and fear. And I think ultimately, if I can be somebody in one of my family members' life that helps them with whatever thing that's in their way, like I just never want that to be an issue. And it's crazy that we got into the world and we're so deep into it where now money does control everything. But yeah, to me it's like I never want it to control anything for me. I want it to just come naturally, and I want to live life in a way that feels good with the people I love and doing things that we love and just not having to worry about those things. It's a privilege to be able to be on that path right now. And I think with privilege comes so much power, and that power is that freedom. That power is being able to provide. Yeah, I'm curious, what are some like intrinsic examples?
I would say an intrinsic example would be, have you heard of Alex Honnold? He's the climber that free soloed El Capitan in Yosemite. I would describe him as an intrinsically motivated person because he does this for the pure love of the sport and because he feels like he has to. There's something within himself that makes him want to achieve such an insurmountable goal. It's something that is purely for yourself and not for any external validation or finances, anything like that. But
Yeah.
I want to do this for me because I feel like I have to,
Yeah.
not necessarily for anybody else. I would say that's a perfect example of intrinsic motivation.
Totally. Like why I wake up in the morning.
Yes.
Or like
It's more of a sense of purpose.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And usually I would say for most entrepreneurs especially, or people who pursue their life's passion, it's a combination of both. Because you clearly wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm fulfilling my purpose. I'm just putting words in your mouth. But based off of knowing you, I just assume that you wake up in the morning feeling good about your purpose. And you're also touching other people's lives and impacting people in a positive way with wellness.
Yeah, I think there's often been times too where throughout the journey you wake up, and I think this is for anyone doing hard things, it's like, why am I doing this? And you ask yourself that question every 6 months. Like you wake up and you're like, why did I even start this thing? Like what was the whole point of this? So there's definitely been those coming to myself moments of, yeah, what is my true purpose within this, and having to really align, because the finance piece is like, okay, I know I'm on that path. That was the OG like reason why I wanted to get started. But then ultimately it does have to hit something else for me. Like what is my purpose within this? And that's where I've really redefined the impact that we're able to make within health and wellness. Like we're literally changing some people's lives with some of these stories I hear from our customers. Like some lady lost 400 pounds.
Whoa. Oh, wow.
Insane.
Oh my God. That is
where I'm like, obviously it's not just to do with our product, but our product made it easier for her to stick to her habits and her routines. And that unlocked something for her, which to me, it just like, it gives me goosebumps every single time, because that is the whole reason why it matters to continue to push forward with this. It's not at the bottom line to just make all of this money. It's like, what is the balance between both of those things? Because both can be true.
I feel like something can start off as extrinsic. You can pursue a venture for the purpose of making money, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think at a certain point, it has to turn inward in order for it to become more sustainable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately too, like, happiness, right? Like money doesn't buy happiness. I think that's very true. But also it can if it's aligned with that bigger purpose.
You've shared that entrepreneurship played a role in pulling you out of a depression. How did building a business impact your mental health and sense of purpose?
Honestly, I would say building the business probably had less to do with it at the time versus when I was in high school. I was just going through big identity shifts, and claiming them, especially because other people around me were telling me no. And like, if someone tells me no, or like, you're not that, I like go full swing into that. I came out as gay at like 15 to my mom. Now me and my mom have a great relationship, and she knows that nothing is changing. But at that time, it was a message being told to me to not be that way. That was very challenging for me. For me to have already this message of, I receive love when I do good things. I receive love when I'm this type of a person. But I'm like, but that's not like truly who I am. I was putting my own messages of the people around me don't actually care about me. And that in turn, like, I was like very unhappy, but like externally you would never be able to tell. Like, I'm a happy-go-lucky person, easygoing, was in all the sports, had great friends, did good in school, like all the things. But yeah, internally I was just not happy. And when I turned 18, I went to this music festival, and I've shared this story with many people, but I went to Electric Forest. It's out in Michigan. I have been going now ever since. I'm going to be 29 later this year. So this will be officially technically the 10th year, except for I think we missed 1 year with COVID. Anyway, not important. Not important, but this festival changed my life. The amount of unconditional love that exists at a music festival is, for me, something I never experienced until that moment. Because you receive words of affirmation, you receive acts of service, you receive physical touch and gift giving and all the things that I had never experienced all of that from complete strangers before, let alone the people that like were actually around me in my life.
Yeah.
So it just really showed me a glimpse into the world of just amazing, beautiful humans that are good. I came back from that festival with a complete 180 shift of my own feelings about myself, and knowing that there is more to me on this earth that I'm supposed to experience as far as love and just, yeah, human connection goes. And that was really the inflection point of just my overall joy growing and my depression depleting. Yeah, my friends around me at the time like would quote and say I came back a completely different person, because I really did. Like, I came back again with this new spark of life that had always been in me. It just had been dimmed for so long.
Yeah.
So something there reignited that, and now it's just been like tossing more wood in the flame and fostering the fire to make it grow bigger and bigger.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. I've actually heard of this festival because my ex was from Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
The festival
So-
is amazing. I've been to other music festivals, and maybe it was because it was so meaningful to me, but there's just magic in that forest, and I think everybody needs to go. Everybody needs to go. I want to bring my mom there eventually, and my nieces and nephews eventually when they get older, but I'm like, no, this festival needs to be protected at all costs.
God, we really are just tribal creatures.
It's true.
It's crazy what community can do to your own psyche and mental health and the feeling of support around you.
It's so true.
Because you really do need that no matter what. You could call yourself a lone wolf. I'm sure you've spent a lot of time just within your own mind alone trying to build up the discipline in order to achieve something so extraordinary. But I find that the moments where I'm most grateful are the moments where I'm surrounded by people I know love me and I love them.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. And I think ultimately, like, that is the like innate fear too that we have in like group settings, because if we're not seen, then we feel like the tribe is not
Yes.
including us, and we want to figure out ways that we can blend in the tribe. And for so many, you move to a new place. Like, I'm from South Dakota. I have migrated over here out west. I came here knowing nobody. It's like you have to be willing to put yourself in maybe other people's tribes, and that can be so uncomfortable.
Terrifying.
But ultimately, like, that has been like the most fun for me, is to put myself in these different groups of people and see not only how I respond in them, but then how, by me being there, how they are responding too, because you affect people in an environment even when you're not talking to them. The effects that you have in a group setting just by being present there changes the whole frequency of that setting.
As you were talking about that, I thought about this concept of putting yourself in a position to be uncomfortable and how much that does for your own sense of self-development. I went to the Cure dance
Yeah.
class a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was so uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. I loved it, but I was so uncomfortable because I don't move in a particularly feminine way.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is showing me a lot about myself, and I still have a lot of things to work on. What would you say about the importance of putting yourself in uncomfortable positions?
I'm so happy that you were brave and went to the class because it's so empowering too.
It is, yeah.
And you learn so much about yourself when you're there, and you don't expect that coming from a dance class. Yeah, to me, my whole mantra when I graduated college, I got invited to be the speaker at my commencement. And that's what I based my whole speech on, was like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. To me, like I have on my leg a tattoo that says I can do hard things. My sister always like put this message in my head that I can do hard things. And so it's an homage to her, but I'm like, to me, and this is the cheesiest quote of all time, but yeah, the most growth happens in your uncomfort zone because you start to build a callus to the things that you didn't think that you were able to do in the past. And when you continue to, lift weights and you build a callus to lifting 20 pounds and 30 pounds, like now your brain has done it. So there's less fear going into it the next time. So when you do something uncomfortable, you're building a callus to your own comfort level and you're able to do harder things. So I think it's beyond necessary to have this mindset. And this is part of our core values at SEEQ, is continuing to become 1% better at whatever you want to do. And that means being a little bit uncomfortable with growing, because growing is uncomfortable. We used to get, when we were growing, literally like aches behind our knees because our body was stretching, and like that is the same thing. It's just more metaphorical and like what you're stretching.
That's funny you have that tattooed. When I was in college, I studied marine bio. I was taking a chemistry class and I was brutally failing. I was terrible at chemistry. And I called my terrible.
Me too.
I called my mom, which is ironic because I probably should have studied business, but I called my mom and I was like, I'm going to switch my major to business. I can't keep doing this class. I'm going to fail. And I was such a good high school student, so never thought I would fail a class. And she talked me out of it immediately. And she said, you're going to learn to do hard things. You're not switching your major. You're going to finish and you're going to learn to do hard things. Because my mom was an entrepreneur too.
Okay.
So she was constantly having to push past that negative feedback loop that can happen in your mind.
Yeah.
Along with external circumstances. Life was constantly throwing shit at her. And she went through moments where she was a multimillionaire and then she was broke and she had to keep pursuing even though everything was pushing against her.
That type of mindset to be around is so powerful.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe at points there was a lot of pressure when you were growing up with that type of mindset, but I think what it can do, especially like as you continue to grow, to me, that type of shit can't be taught. Like you have to just deeply believe that. And it can be way more challenging to be taught. Not to say it can't be. My dad really was hard on me when it came to just being disciplined to something. And when you commit to something, you do it. Yeah. And I am very grateful now that I have this just in my bones, where I'm sure that's the same for you when you were growing up with your mom, and just the different mindsets that she was maybe unconsciously putting into you.
Yeah, she was. It was very unconscious because she was trying to get me to settle for the 9-to-5 lifestyle because she had suffered through so many trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship. She didn't want me going down that path. She was like, I want you to have a stable life. Little did she know that she was subconsciously putting these ideas into me. And now I'm such...
Can't be stopped.
I can't, no.
I can't be stopped.
No. I had to learn I was kind of like you in that I had to learn my path. I had to learn what business was going to look like for me.
Yeah.
But I've always been fascinated by entrepreneurship and starting this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Figuring out what's stuck.
Especially for us in this day and age, to me, it's like the opportunities are limitless.
Yes.
With what we have access to. I know so many people are inspired by Shark Tank, and that's what ultimately inspired me when I was in high school, watching these random like mom and pop people starting a business out of their garage with no business background. And I'm like, oh my God, if they're selling this crazy product and are actually successful, like imagine if you have a product that you can run with, that you're actually passionate about. I'm like, I could so do that. But I didn't start college going into business. I thought people chose business degrees as like a cop out because they actually didn't know what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
I had no idea what the purpose of getting a business degree was until my sophomore year. Going into my sophomore year, I was chatting with a friend and he was like, you don't shut up about business and like wanting to start something. Why are you going to school for elementary education and instead going like business marketing or management or whatever? And I was like, wow, I've never had someone like tell me that. And then literally that next week I switched my major to business marketing and stuck with that. It's a crazy path that you take, but I think everyone can do business without having a business degree.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
like I think if I could go back, I wish I would have had like something I was just curious about. Like if you were just curious, deeply curious about marine biology,
I thought I was going to be a professor.
that's awesome.
So
Now you have all this like knowledge around this stuff. And I'm like, if I could go back, I'm like, I don't know what I would go back for, just to
Yeah.
like deeply learn, because everything in business I think can be taught
Yeah.
through external means, mentors and other things. But yeah, it's so fascinating.
And taught on the job. I had a marketing career before I became a personal trainer and before I started this. I had no marketing experience whatsoever. No degree, nothing like that. So I had to learn everything on the job. And I thank God I learned that way because I didn't get stuck in the mindset of a professor. I could create my own path, which is kind of what I'm doing with this as well.
Yeah, you probably are able to take away so much of that and apply it to your day to day.
Yeah.
That's what I also love so much about marketing is it's everything. It's how you show up as yourself. We were talking about like building your personal brand and like niching down and all these things right before the podcast started. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's exactly marketing. You know, it's taking all these skill sets and applying it to literally everything in life. At the end of the day, I can figure out a way that I'm like, yeah, that's marketing too.
Yeah.
It's just not an advertisement, maybe. So I think that skill set and yeah, learning on the job, I think is so important. That's my advice to anybody who's getting started, especially in wanting to build something, is learn how to market. Go get a job at an agency and wear 6 hats. And I guarantee you, you will have this just armor that can go to anything, you know?
Oh God, I couldn't agree with that statement more. The way I had to wear 15 hats at my agency positions, because most of my jobs were in agencies.
Yeah.
I was a social media content creator. I was a community manager. I was a filmmaker, an editor. Every single touch point of social media marketing I did. Learning how to balance that gives you so much perspective to put into, I was going to say the real world. The agency world is the real world.
Yeah.
But it allows you to apply these skill sets to every facet of your life.
Well, right now it's helping you with building your podcast and
Yes.
building whatever else you want to build around yourself when it comes to who Juliet is, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because branding is really everything
Yeah.
nowadays, especially if you're trying to build something bigger than yourself, then you got to learn how to build something bigger than yourself.
It's so true.
Yeah. Speaking of Shark Tank, didn't you get the stamp of approval from Mark Cuban?
We did get the stamp of approval. Yeah, that was like
Tell me
a
about that.
jaw-dropping moment for us in business. And we were basically 45 days into our launch in October of 2021. And at this point, we're like 95% sold out of our first 4,000 units, all
Wow.
through organic TikTok. At this point, we knew we were going to sell out the product. And then we got an order from Jake Cuban in Dallas, Texas. And we were like, seems fishy.
Yeah, that's familiar.
We have to go look up this address. So we looked up the address and on Google Earth, and this was like a huge white mansion. And we were like, this is for sure Mark Cuban's son that just ordered. And so with that, we were thinking about how we can possibly get Mark's attention and just like comment saying that he had it or something. Ben is up in his room script writing. And that night, we got a notification that Mark Cuban tagged us in a video on Shark Tank.
Oh my God.
Mark Cuban tagged us in a video on TikTok saying that we should be on Shark Tank and rating the product a 10 out of 10. And we were like, what the heck is happening? Like
Wow.
we have to go all in on this now. Like this is a whole bit that we have to lean into because we were doing this series of getting this guy on Shark Tank. The whole vision was just to basically have something that people could connect to on social to watch the video. So it was just kind of a social hack storytelling video. But now that we had Mark Cuban telling us we should go on Shark Tank, we're like, maybe we should actually apply and do the whole bit and see what happens. So we did end up applying. And I mean, the application, once you're like deeper in the weeds of it, like we probably spent over 40 hours of just like putting together all the stuff. And we're like 6 months into the process at this point, and we had a date to fly out and when we were going to film and all the stuff, but they were like, at any point we can call and you might not be on the list. So we're a week into writing our script and putting together like what we want on the main stage with us, and then they give us a call and say, hey, you're not on the next list. And we're like, okay. Which honestly, like looking back in hindsight, it would have been terrible for us to go on Shark Tank at that point. We were only in stock for like 7 or 8 months at the time. We were only in business for 7 or 8 months, and we were only in stock, I think, for 2 months. So it was very much a blessing in disguise that it didn't work out, but it was still fun to go through the whole process and learn like what the back end of it all looks like. And who knows, maybe in a year we'll be on Shark Tank. I have
Who
no idea.
knows? It is kind of funny that everything happens for a reason
Yeah.
in that regard. I'm actually familiar with that process because my mom went through the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she ended up getting the same call. I believe failures are often just redirections. You did just mention this, but at any point while you were building this business, did you experience any setbacks that ended up leading you in the right direction ultimately?
I mean, I would say honestly, I don't know if I would say it was a failure or a setback, because again, I have a hard time with like viewing anything as a failure, because at the end of the day, you still are gaining something out of it. And again, delusional optimist. I really believe that like, yeah, everything does happen for a reason. And if this wasn't supposed to happen, then we're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So I don't think, at least in the beginning phases, there were any setbacks that pushed us into the right direction necessarily. I think like now, like that we're more in a mature phase of our business and we're like raising capital this last year and getting a lot of no's from certain institutions for the raise, I think felt like a setback in the moment, because we were like, why aren't they seeing what we're seeing in all of this? But ultimately, like, I think that those redirections allowed us to find the right people who did see it. And it wasn't just people that cared about what we were making as far as just annual revenue goes and all these other data points. Because at the end of the day, we want people that are really bought into the business and the brand that we're building, that sees beyond maybe the here and now, but sees where we're going and can get on board on that rocket ship and be like, I want to be a part of that. I'd say those felt like bigger redirections for us that felt more positive, even though during getting those responses of like, we just don't see the value, or maybe this is just a trend and we're like, what? And like, we really wanted to work with some of these people, but yeah, I'd say the Shark Tank thing was a blessing in disguise, probably at the biggest point.
What is that phrase? Rejection is just redirection.
Totally.
It can feel so soul crushing in the moment when you don't get that job, or when you don't get that business partnership, or when you don't get into a specific retailer. But I truly believe what's meant for you won't miss you. I know how cliche that sounds.
It's so true.
But it's very true.
Yeah.
Every single rejection I've received has pointed me ultimately in the right direction, into the place that I was supposed to be in.
Completely. Yeah. And it's like certain things might take longer. So the fact that we didn't get it at this certain time to go into this certain retailer is going to be better for our business case in the here and now. But knowing that opportunity will likely open up again in the future, even though it's like you want everything, it might not be the best for you in this moment. And that's just the universe just saying like, put a break on that. Like, I'll come back and visit you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
You know,
it really is such a slow process too, right? So much discipline. The Hermosis have popularized this idea of extending your timeline for success in a world obsessed with instant gratification. How did you manage expectations, stay patient, and believe in your vision, especially when others or society at large may have doubted it?
I really love being in the blue sky. I love being in the blue sky and seeing all the possibilities. And then I love bringing it down to earth. That is like my super skill, is being able to talk with my co-founder who lives in the blue sky and saying, okay, what can we ground out and like what's most important for us to achieve this year? So for basically the first couple years, but specifically when we first sold out of those first 4,000 units, we had no intention of ordering a second round of inventory. So when we did, it was like, hey, you're not going to receive inventory for like upwards of 12 weeks. So we were going to have 3 months or more without any product. And during that time, I was like, we need to ground out what the vision is for this year, because now we know we're not just sitting on these 4,000 units for 6 to 12 months. We sold out of them so quickly. We have high demand for this product. We need to actualize this and figure out what the next steps look like. And to me, it's so important to have these big blue sky ideas, but then ground it into what does the next year look like and what needs to happen in this first year to really get to year 2 and year 3 and year 5 and year 10. So it's like, be in your 10-year vision of like, oh, we want to have water fountain with SEEQ coming out of it at every single gym. Like that's a crazy, like long-term, just like blue sky random idea. Or like we want to have a partnership with the Timberwolves and be like the sponsored drink that the Timberwolves have. Timberwolves, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
NBA. Okay, great.
Minnesota.
I'm like, some people don't even know the Timberwolves.
Basketball.
I'm like, oh, we exist.
No,
We
my
exist.
dad is a huge basketball guy. Big Laker fan.
Okay.
But I'm familiar with the Timberwolves.
Timberwolves. The
Yeah.
Minnesota Timberwolves used to be called the Minnesota Lakers.
Really?
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It used to be the
Oh,
Minnesota
okay.
Lakers, and then I think that was before the Lakers even existed. But I have this old throwback vintage shirt that says Minnesota Lakers, so I really
That's
want to
cool.
wear it to a Lakers versus Timberwolves game, so then you don't know who I'm cheering for. But it's
A little bit of
low-key.
both.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so we did this. It follows the EOS model, and I bring this up a lot to anyone who's just getting started, but it really did help just ground out, because I call them shiny objects, all these different things that you want to do. But what actually matters is the next 3 months, we're going to do these 2 things that are going to require a lot of fucking work, because we were able to ground out in a very specific, like, here's what's happening in the next 12 months, and here's what we hope to happen in the next 3 years, and then revisiting that every single quarter. We were seeing how we were achieving these different things, but not getting too ahead of ourselves with these shiny objects that we want right now. Because at the end of the day, I think you have to be a little realistic when you're building a business. I love, again, the blue sky is my favorite place to be, but I also am like, yes, but we need to keep those over here on the shelf for now, and then grab the ones that we can actually do this year and then see them come through.
Yes.
Where I think that's so easy just to be shiny object, shiny object. Then you're going after 5 different things all at the same time, and you want all of them to happen all at the same time. That's just not realistic. So yes, delusional optimist, but very balanced with very critical realist in the sense of just tangibly what your energy can output in this timeline, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're very good at bringing yourself back down to earth.
Totally. And I never want to be the one that's like shitting on an idea or saying we can't do something. I am always the one saying, yes, let's think about that for next year. Like we want to host a SEEQ carnival next year. Teasing it right now on the
Okay, that's so
podcast.
much fun.
And I'm like, I want 3 carnival-like flavors. I want a 3-day carnival where we rent out, like, I don't know, the Santa Monica Pier or what happens. But like that, to me, that can't happen this year. As much as we would want to happen this year, we need to be planning that for like 6 months. So very much a delusional optimist, but realistic.
That's such a good skill to have, especially in business and entrepreneurship, because we do live in a world that's very obsessed with instant gratification. I mean, you can order something on your phone right now and it'll show up in 4 hours
It's
at
so
your front
true.
door.
It's so true.
So building that long-term gratification is such a skill. I always regard people who are super into fitness as people who are okay with the long-term gratification.
Totally.
The results aren't going to show up right away. You have to keep going for at least 6 months at the bare minimum in order to see a little bit of results. Hopefully you fall in love with the process along the way. But that's why people who are super into fitness, I see them as possessing that skill. Same thing with someone who has built a very successful business, because it's so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
There's so many different business models right now, and there's so many get-rich-quick schemes that can very easily take your eye off the prize.
Completely.
I definitely do that. I've been guilty of that for sure.
Same.
I have to constantly tell myself to just focus on the thing that I actually want. So I'm like, just keep your eye on the prize and try not to get distracted by this business idea or that business idea. And I think that was my mom's downfall, because she was constantly distracted by the next get-rich-quick scheme, which never really kept her eye on the actual prize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really hard, I would say, because especially as a very passionate person, to say I'm not passionate about more than one thing is just crazy. Like I love so many different things, and I always had a side hustle when I
Yeah.
was doing something else. But that was ultimately because I wanted that side hustle to be the focus.
Yes.
But now it's like I'm finding myself having to say no to things that I would really love to do, but I just genuinely know my energy would be so depleted. And I'm in now the business of making sure that I have the most energy to give to the people around me when I'm present with them,
Yeah.
to be building the business with. Like in my 40s, I want to start a cat cafe and I want to rescue cats and I want to have maybe get my own like
That's
little
so
coffee
cute.
shop of sorts. I don't have any idea. I want to start my own thrift store eventually because again, I'm still the person that's picking shit up from the side of the road and putting it in my car and wanting to flip it for X amount of money. Like I am
Full circle.
still that person.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. I was at the beach just the other day and I saw this like fold up camping table just like propped up against the garbage and I was like, is this broken? And I open it, not broken at all. Just needs to be like wiped down. And I'm like, I'm for sure bringing this home. So I am like always looking for those like quick and fast and like easy things. But yeah, discipline, going back to that, is just the most important thing when you're building something because you
Oh, for
can't
sure.
go deep if you're going wide. You know, if you're
Yes.
going wide, you're going to go shallow into all those things. I'm trying to dig a well that has a bunch of gold in it. To do that, I'm going to need to go so fucking deep into the one hole that I'm digging versus trying to dig 12 holes and try to find it 12 feet deep. It's like, no, no, no. We need to go like 50 feet deep. We need to go 100 feet deep. Instant gratification is so challenging in this world right
Oh,
now.
yeah,
And
it
like
is.
those practices that, again, build the callus to building more long term gratification, whether that's the fitness goals or doing a 30-day challenge of sorts or doing, like, I think there's some easy ones with just like not checking your phone till like noon versus like checking it right away. Or like when you post something, like just don't look at how it's performing. Just let it post and let it do its thing. But what are these like little tools and practices to build more long-term gratification? Because we're not going away from that anytime soon.
No,
Like
definitely not.
attention spans are only depleting by the millisecond every single day.
Yeah. I really like what you said about wells. That's such a great way of putting it because you have to keep digging into the one thing if you really want that one thing to be your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
I think that goes for every facet of life. That goes for your career, but it applies to your dating life too, because if you want a meaningful relationship, you have to build with one person. You can only manage so many energies at one time. If you're trying to put a lot of your energy into a bunch of different people, it's very hard to develop deep, meaningful relationships with each and every one of them,
Totally.
romantic and platonic.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also making sure that you're digging that same well within yourself too and building that relationship with yourself. I think that's so important that so many people neglect and try to find that externally versus going and exploring the curiosities of your own heart and your own body. And you can do that through the means of others and community. But to me, that's also been a huge unlock for how I show up, not only for myself and my own like confidence, but then also now how intentional I am about my relationships too.
Yeah. I'm really big into manifestation too. So I have the tendency to live up in the clouds.
Totally.
I was on the phone with, I have an influencer manager. Shout out, Emily.
Nice.
She's great. But I was on the phone with her the other day and she was like, what is your goal for the end of the year? And I was like, well, the goal that's still relatively realistic in my eyes is 100K on Instagram.
Love.
I'd love to get there.
Yeah.
And she was like, go bigger.
Okay.
And I have to push myself. I'm like I said, I'm big into manifestation, but I'm also grounded in reality. So I have to push myself down to the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
She was like, no, dream bigger. And I go, okay, 1 million. And she's like, yeah, we're going to help get you there. They just introduced a podcast category in the Golden Globes. I'm like, that's a really cool goal.
That's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And that would be my head in the clouds type of
Yeah.
goal. And she was like, okay, let's bring it back down. What are the steps we can take to realistically get you there? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's good to write out that goal and it's like, okay, if you wanted to be getting this award, then what are the 3 things that you could do right this second? Making a big goal and cracking it down into those different little pieces because that big goal stops people from getting started so many times.
Oh, for sure.
Because it feels way too daunting and like, oh, I could never get there. But it's like, okay, but could you do these 3 things this next 2 weeks? And it's like, oh yeah, I could do those 3 things. But many people don't realize that with their big goals of, I want to be a millionaire. It's like, okay, that's achievable. Like you can absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure that out. Same with like, I think why I have this bigger, deeper passion of wanting to help people move these blocks in their life to get them to their more aligned life or to help them with their business is something that I deeply, deeply care about because one, entrepreneurship is so lonely.
Yeah.
Whether you're building a business, you're building a brand, you're building your personal, like it doesn't matter. It feels so lonely unless you have people around you that you feel like you can lean on, or like you can lean on Emily to help you actually think about these bigger goals and actualize them. Where for me, I'm like around so many people, hearing their different blocks and what they need help with. I'm like, I can sit down for 2 hours with you and workshop this, and we can get you to remove this block so you can move forward feeling confident about this.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's so lonely if you don't have those people to lean on.
It can be very lonely. Have you heard of Chris Williamson?
I don't know if I have.
He's a British podcaster. He's the guy
Okay.
he's blonde. He's usually got a shaved head.
Maybe I've seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very big on socials, but
Okay.
something he talks about in a lot of his podcast episodes is this chapter of life called the lonely chapter. And it's when you start getting into self-development or entrepreneurship, whatever venture you're pursuing to help better your life, it's easy to outgrow the friends that you had, and yet you haven't developed yourself enough to call in the people who eventually you'll get to their level. So it's this period of your life where you're kind of going at it alone, and it can feel almost like a limbo state because you're in the building phase. I think it's so important to keep the people who really support you close, especially in that phase.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important to have those people that it doesn't matter what they can provide value wise. The value that they provide is their support. It's not to get you to the next level of, maybe the skill set that you're trying to grow, but it's helping you feel confident to get to that skill set on your own, whatever that looks like. And I'm also a big advocate of having a mentor. Pay for them. Go grab a coffee with someone. I guarantee you, more than not, people are willing to grab 15 minutes of time with you as you're in that like lonely chapter. Where if you want to be a entrepreneur, like go message an entrepreneur on Instagram and ask them for 15 minutes of their time, or LinkedIn or whatever. My line is open if you want to message me. I love a coffee.
Yeah.
But it's so true. Like if I didn't lean on my like entrepreneurship professor in school, I asked her to meet with me every Friday just to talk about business and learn from her because she's built businesses before. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have gotten my next business mentor that was just a person that was growing a business local to the community. And then from there, getting another business mentor. And I think ultimately that lonely chapter only can feel so alone if you aren't leaning on your support group 100%. And if you're also not taking the time to just go after your mentors. Because yeah, I mean, I don't think like LeBron James probably got to where he was just strictly on his own being a good basketball player. He probably had the right people around him supporting him on his journey, and then also had different mentors to help build him up to make the right connection or to do whatever thing on the path.
It takes a village.
Takes a village. It takes a village for sure.
It takes a village. Yeah. Not
Yeah.
just to raise a child, but to build yourself up.
Yes.
Yeah. You need the right people around you.
It's so true.
Tell me about Forbes 30 under 30. What did that mean to you?
30 under 30 meant a lot for a past version of me. Like when I was 19, that's when I changed my major. That's when I pursued. I'm like, I'm going to school now to learn the skills to be an entrepreneur, nothing else. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to own a business. That's the thing. And at that time, I'm like putting Forbes 30 under 30 on everything. I'm like, I'm putting it on
the
my vision
manifestation
board. Yeah, for sure. And I made it like my passwords at the time. Like it was something with Forbes 30 under 30 in them. And it was just this milestone that I thought, when you hit this, that means like you've been successful in business. That's an indicator that you are successful. And that was like the underline of like, I really want this, but I knew I was just going to continue to move through my life. And with the intention and the awareness of like, this is what I want. Last year when I was at Expo West, which is like basically the Super Bowl for consumer product goods, which is what industry I'm in, it's a marathon. Like every brand that you see in store is there pitching to retailers and investors, and it's a whole big thing. But there I was like, I really want to meet someone that works at Forbes that I can just ask a couple pointers on how to get Forbes 30 under 30. I was 28. I turned 28 in November. So I'm like, okay, I have 2 years to still get this. Well, 2 years technically, yeah. And so I did find one person at this networking dinner that I was invited to. And I was like, what are your recommendations if I wanted one leg up on anything? She's like, well, I am the one that chooses all of the Forbes 30 under 30 people.
Oh shit.
And
Yeah,
I was like,
you
wow,
found the right person.
okay, amazing. Staying in touch with you for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny because it's like we've done all the things, and when I finally got it, it was like awesome to achieve, but also it was almost expected for me at that point to achieve it. And that's why I think oftentimes the journey, again, it's a very cheesy quote, it's all about the journey. The journey is what matters. The destination is like, once you're there, it's awesome. But the journey is what got me there. And like that whole path from 19 to 28 was something I would never change. I was so excited about that journey and what I had to do to get there, that when I finally got Forbes 30 under 30, it was like doing the 30-day challenge, and you get to the finish line and you complete the Ironman or whatever your big moment is. It's like you train for all this time and then you do it. And it's like, well, yeah, I trained, and I proved to myself that I was going to do it. And then I finally did it. But like, I knew I was going to do it because I trained for it,
Yes. Did you find it was anticlimactic in a way?
For sure. In that moment, yeah, I was like, in the moment of actually receiving it, like that singular day, I was so ecstatic.
Yeah,
Like
of course.
I was off the walls. I happened to be in Minnesota for a meeting the day that I woke up and got the notification, along with everyone else, that we got Forbes 30 under 30. And I had so many messages coming in, FaceTime with my co-founder. And gratefully, I already had a dinner scheduled that night with a bunch of my Minneapolis friends because I used to live there.
Yeah.
So it was so fun to be around that support group that has seen the journey of all the things I've done from 19 to today. Like those are my true people that have seen the socks in a box. They've seen the mom brand. They've seen it all. And that was a very, very special day. So that singular day definitely was like climactic.
Yeah.
But then like once you get it, it's like, okay, amazing. Like the next day when I woke up, I'm like, okay, that's cool now.
Then the next goal shows up.
Yeah. And like for me, like I feel like I'm less of the person that's looking at the next milestone. That to me was one that I've always had in the back of my head. Like I really hope to get Forbes 30 under 30. But now the milestone is crushing it in retail for SEEQ and selling the business in the next, call it 5 or less years. That's like the next milestone. And then from there, I'm like, get me a patch of land in Costa Rica, get me, just off the grid with my lover and my cats, and having just a very blissful life that's not as demanding, and that I get to then give back to people who want to pursue entrepreneurship or bigger things in their life. That's, I'd say, the bigger milestone that I'm looking to check off after SEEQ absolutely crushes.
Yeah. God, that's so interesting. That just reminded me of the parable, excuse me, of the fisherman.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
Tell me.
There's a fisherman who goes out at sea every single day. He catches fish all day and he cooks it for his family, and that's his life. And he runs across an American manufacturer who keeps telling him to go bigger. Oh, well, why don't you bring out a big net? Why don't you cast a net? And then you can catch a bunch of fish and then you can sell them in retailers. And he's like, well, why would I do that? He's like, oh, so you can make a bunch of money. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger. So why don't you purchase a huge boat and then get a big rig and get a manufacturer? He's like, why would I do that? And the whole thing is to basically get back to his roots of catching fish and then cooking it for his family at home and living that very simple life. The point is, the journey of going through all of that manufacturing and creating this big business for himself would have been worth it, even though he's coming right back to the beginning, because you learn so much about yourself in that process. And you learn so much about helping other people in that process as well.
It's so true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it is interesting that you start small, quote unquote, and then you end small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I definitely can resonate with that story so much, just from my own experience of working even at the supplement store and helping people with their diet and nutrition.
Yeah.
And then seeing them get results of, more muscle mass, less body fat. They're getting like exactly what they came in for. And then also selling them supplements, but it was rooted in diet and nutrition, and I got to work one-on-one with these people. And I'm like, this is amazing. I want to provide this access of information to people so more people can unlock this for themselves.
Yes.
And ultimately that's what we're doing now at a much larger scale with SEEQ. But now coming back all to it at the end of the day, that's still really the only thing I care about is that. And now there's just a lot more things to do
Yeah.
along it, which is amazing and fun. And I'm
Yeah.
learning so much. And that way I can have the knowledge to help other people when they want to build something, or when they simply want to create that simple life, but they still need this other access to freedom through finances or whatever that
Yeah, of
looks like.
course.
So yeah, it is so funny though how it starts simple and ends
And
simple, and
it
we love
starts
to
simple and ends
complicate it
simple.
all in the middle. But
Yeah.
you learn so much again about yourself, which I think is so important.
And then you provide not just about yourself, but you provide value and you put that out into the world, because what you're doing and what your product is doing, it is helping people.
Yeah,
You are quite literally providing value and putting it out into the universe. And then the universe is going to reward you when you provide something valuable to other people.
totally.
Because that's really what it's about. All of this is so much bigger than yourself. It's about helping others around you and helping the masses.
Yeah,
And if you can do that effectively, you've built yourself a very powerful personal brand, powerful product, whatever industry you're in. If you can do that and you're successful with it, you're on another level, basically.
completely. Yeah, one of my favorite mantras that I have is you change one person and you change a million, because the butterfly effect is so real.
Yeah, it's
You
so
change
real.
one person's just belief in themselves, and then they pass it on to another person, and they pass it on to another person. And before you know it, you've just increased the frequency of the entire world. So as little and small as like everything is, and all of us are, those little moments matter so much.
Yeah.
These conversations matter so much because you share it with one person. That's why I don't care about like engagement or growth, because I know at the end of the day I'm receiving messages like, this really inspired me, and I'm like, great, did my job.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do through this post, is inspire someone and to help them feel like they can do it too. Yeah, I think that's just so true. And you change one person, you change so many people.
Yeah, I totally agree.